Hi everybody, my name is Pete Proctor. I'm the principal at Lewisburg Middle School. This message is for all the parents and students of our middle school kids who are wondering what's going to be happening this week at school. So today is Sunday, August 30th, and boy, there's a lot going on. This week we kick off fall sports, so that is very, very exciting. We're really thrilled that we can have our sports this week, so that's something that the information below, if you read down past this video, there's a lot of important things for parents to know about what sports are going to look like this year. So if you haven't seen the way I've organized these Sunday messages yet, basically what I like to do is just have important things for the dates of the week at the top. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what's going to be happening on each of those days, where's the games. Then if you scroll down, the next thing you'll see is a top 10 list. And so rather than overwhelm you with tons of info, I just want to boil it down to 10 things that I think parents and students should need to know the most. So we'll go over that list here in just a second. And then if you scroll down past that, that's where you're going to see information about sports. You'll see some stuff from FBLA, student organizations, as well as our social worker. There's more information down there for you guys to look at. So what I want to do is just go over the list, and I've got a copy written down for myself here of what are those top 10 things that are happening this week at the middle school. So first one on the list, number 1 says, LMS athletics begin this week. Please read down the page for important event guidelines and ticketing procedures. So fall sports is gearing up. And if I were to boil it down to the main things about how sports are going to look this year, or at least for the start of this year, it's that the schools have to communicate a lot with each other to see what the other schools' guidelines are for their COVID procedures. So if you can imagine, we play schools that are in Johnson County, like Spring Hill teams, Gardner teams, but we also play schools within our county, and the counties determine these guidelines for how many people can gather in facilities. So what may be an okay thing to do in Lewisburg might not be an okay thing to do in Gardner. So there's a lot of communication that has to happen back and forth with the schools to make sure that we're communicating about events. So one of the things you'll notice, read down below, like I said, I'll say it over and over again, read below, because that's where you as a parent will be able to see what games are going to look like, how we're going to handle seating, things of that nature. If I was going to boil it down for you, it'd be that every athlete will be given up to 4 tickets that look similar to these, and these are what allow you to pay the admission at the gate for our activities and events. So for football, for example, if you have a student who plays, they'll get 4 tickets, and it's up to you how you distribute those tickets. You just don't want to lose them, because the copies we give you are the ones we want you to hold on to. So your student could give those to another student or to family members, and it may be less than 4 some weeks. So you have to be paying very close attention to the announcements that the school is sending out, because we'll let you know, hey, this week for volleyball, you can use 3 tickets or 4 tickets, or if it goes down to 2, we'll let you know. So just pay close attention to the emails and announcements that go out from coaches as well as the school, so we can keep you up to date on that. Number 2 on the list, mask wearing, sanitation, social distancing are still things that we're emphasizing at the middle school. If I was going to say we have some areas to work on, it would probably be what happens before school and after school. Right before school, we're getting some kids who show up, and this is number 3. We've got some kids who are showing up before 7:35 a.m., and that makes it tough for the school to supervise those kids, and it's leading to a little bit of crowding. So if you have a kid who walks to school or a high schooler drops them off, please delay that drop off until 7:35 if you can, just so that we're not crowding our doors, so we can do everything we can to maintain distancing as well as mask wearing that we can. Also, after school, we're noticing some kids who are either waiting for high schoolers at the corner. A lot of kids are dropping those masks down right after school, but they're still on school property. We don't want to get into a situation where we're having to give school discipline for kids who aren't wearing the mask on school grounds. So please talk to your kiddos if they're a bus rider, if they're walking to the, not bus riders, but if they're walking to the elementary school. Some of them tend to congregate at that corner, and we really want to avoid that if we can, or at least the mask component of that. Those masks have to stay on anytime a kid is on school property. And I think what happens is kids get a little bit confused, because when we take mask breaks at school, we spread them out 6 feet apart, and then they can take those masks off for a little bit. But what's happening is after school, they're taking the masks off and they're not spread out. So we need some help talking to those kids about that, because we take it very seriously. Okay, so I talked about number 3 on the list, and that's reducing those crowd sizes and the drop-offs at 7:35. Number 4, it says, how organized is your kid? And what can you do to see how your kid's doing so far? Well, one test that a parent can look at for their kid is to see if they're filling out that agenda. That's a real clue as to how organized they are as a student. So if you ask your kiddo, hey, let me see your agenda, open it up to last week and see if they're actually writing things down in that agenda. So every teacher's providing information for those kids to copy, every one of us. And we're encouraging and training our students to write that down. It just helps with that organization piece. So you test them on that a little bit. Also, have your kids show you how they access Skyward or how they go to a Google Classroom. At the middle school, we don't really invite the guardians into the Google Classrooms because the kids can just show you over their shoulder. So it makes it a little bit easier if we just kind of run it through one person rather than having a guardian set, and then it's another password for you to have to follow. Number 5 on the list, it says all teacher emails and calendars can be accessed through our school website, so please look at that. If you have an absence or your kid is sick and you're wondering what's happening at school, you can use that as a way to track what's been going on, as well as to find contact information for all our teachers. It's all there. Number 6 on our list, students are earning grades in classes, so please be checking Skyward. If you log in as a parent or if your kid logs in, you both have access to see how kids are doing with grades. And that is going to be ramping up, especially this week. We're getting used to things. We're into the flow. We're starting into the 3rd week of school, which is fantastic. So look at those grades and communicate with your children about how they're doing at school. Number 7 on the list, we're striving to provide students additional mask breaks. Now that's been a little bit of a challenge at the middle school, and I want to explain why that is. At the elementary school and at the high school, they have big blocks of time. So at the high school, they have 90-minute classes, and I wouldn't say it's easy, but it facilitates a break a little bit more nicely when you've got a long class and then you can take a break within it. At the elementary school, a lot of times they're with the teacher all day long, so it's more natural to take those breaks. At the middle school, we're a little bit unique because we have 8 classes and each of those classes is about 42 minutes long, which is not a lot. So we are working with staff to increase the number of mask breaks that we're doing at the middle school. So hopefully your kids are seeing an uptick in that, but we just have to be very careful because everything that we do, we have to measure against instructional time. So for example, if a teacher was to take a 10-minute break for 4 days in a row, they've essentially lost a whole day of teaching by doing that. Now, we understand that mask breaks are very important and we want our students to feel comfortable, so we're doing what we can to increase the number of them, but we're also protecting that teaching time. I also heard a thing this past week about mask brackets, and if you haven't checked these out, I put a link in the information below this video about where you can go to find mask brackets. And what those are, they're little plastic cages that fit underneath the mask itself. They rest on the skin and they sit here, and what it does is it keeps the mask from collapsing on the face. Now let me get this real quick. There are different kinds of masks. Now, if your kid is using a cloth mask like this, I think one of the critiques of this mask is that when it's on the face, it actually covers the mouth. So if I breathe in and out, I'm actually having to breathe through. This is like touching my lips. And that can be very uncomfortable for students throughout the day. That little bracket sits underneath there and it keeps the cloth from falling down on the face, and I think it makes things feel a little bit more comfortable for students. Same with these kind of masks, okay? So that's another thing to be aware of. We're trying to work on mask breaks. There might be some things that you could do as a family to try and make masks more comfortable, whether it's using the paper ones. Finding something that's comfortable for the student is very, very important. Number 8 on our list, we encourage students to bring water bottles to the middle school. So that started off really well, but we still have a few kids who naturally get thirsty through the school day, and we will always provide them a drink of water and a water bottle, but we're going through our supplies of water bottles really quick. So if you have something reusable at home, it would go a long way to help us if you could send that with your kid. Just put their name on it. They can carry it from class to class. Our water fountains, the little fountain that squirts up, those are disabled, but on those water fountains on the back of them, we actually have water filling stations with filtered water, and those are accessible to students at all times. So once again, bring those water bottles. If your kid doesn't have one, we will provide them one, but we just want to do what we can to protect that supply that we have at the middle school too. Number 9 on the list, school fees have been recently added to Skyward. So I have 2 kids in this building and 1 at Rockville, and I definitely noticed that something happened with fees on Skyward. I kind of owe some money now. So you'll see those things are in now. And also there's a online payment piece of that that's called RevTrack, which allows you to pay those bills online. But to do that, you pay a small fee. Just know that those fees come back to use that online payment system on September 5th. So if you've been trying to save a little cash by sending checks into the school or paying with cash at the schools, you can still do those things. But just know that you'll see a fee associated with that if you're using the online payment system through Skyward. And then last, when dropping off kids or picking them up, please pull as far forward as you can to the curb in the morning. So we do this big loop. If you're a parent drop off in the morning, or if a high schooler drops off your kid and they use our front lot, when you pull around that circle drive to the other side, pull as far forward as you can, just so that we're not backing up onto 68 highway. I know it's really tempting to want to get them right next to those doors for the gym entrance so they don't have to walk as far, but think of it as a little bit extra exercise. It won't hurt them, but it does help us a lot if you can pull forward with the drop off. Same with the pickups after school. So if you see a staff member who's out there like trying to wave you forward, they're not trying to be mean to you. They're just trying to make sure that we're moving our traffic in the car line as far forward as we can. That's about all I got for this week. I wanted to get these videos a little bit quicker. My goal is to get under 10 minutes, and I can see I'm already at 11. So I will work to get more brief with these. There's just been so much training that's been happening over the first couple weeks of school, and lots to describe to everybody. So if you scroll down, there's also some information from our school social worker, Lindsay Douglas. You'll see some announcements from our new FBLA leadership team at the middle school. So those are students. They made a video that you can see down below. And like I said, please read closely all that information that's down there about what we are doing for sports at the middle school and how that's going to look with tickets and event guidelines. All right, so guys, have a great week. And if you have questions about those event guidelines, you can email the school. You can email Scott Hinkle. He's our activities director and assistant principal, and he'd be glad to clarify things for you. You can also reach out to coaches too. Guys, have a fantastic week, and we will see students at school tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.